But the same provisions are what the other side to this argues has made NOC a cartel and continue to mess up in world competitions for years on end, hiding behind independence. The argument now is just disband it, risk the wrath of IOC with repercussions to athletes for a while and then streamline the system, or continue with the problems bedeviling us until another competition and the cycle continues. The studio tonight, Moses Tanui, our athlete, we all know him for a two-time Boston Marathon champion, and he has a lot of other good things to his name. And of course, Andrew Mudibo, who's the head or president of the Kenya Table Tennis Association, which also forms part of NOC. Thank you so much for making time for us. So which way forward? I'll start with you.
For me, first of all, we need to look at, we all know what has happened. And it is not that it just started today, or this is a thing that started even maybe before I was born.
Moses,
yeah, But at the end of the day, we need to call a spade a spade. We've had problems and maybe disgruntled maybe talks and all that in NOC, and not just NOC alone, also federations are to blame. And when you talk about cartels, a cartel for me would be even a group that wants to control, to preserve maybe their ownership. So the cartels are not just, let's say, NOC, as it has been said. We have also cartels in even in the ministry itself. So if you are going the whole route, we need also to look at not just NOC alone. We've had issues also within the ministry, issues within also the federations. At the end of the day, the bottom line is it's the issue of governance also in federations, and what input does the government give? And I think that's why the Sports Act was brought in.
But nobody seems to be following.
Yes, it's not being followed. It's just like the normal other reports that have always been there. Solutions have been found, but nobody's implementing it.
So are you among those calling for NOC to be disbanded, or are you against what the Cabinet Secretary did?
What we need to make clear is, and I think I can speak maybe for all the federations, is that all of us agree with what has been done by the
Cabinet Secretary.
But the procedure that he has used, it is wrong. Because even before disbanding NOC, what he should have done is sit down with the athletes that are there. We are the stakeholders. We have a constitution that is there that needs to be, we can still salvage things through that constitution that is there, as much as how it is.
Without necessarily disbanding.
Without necessarily disbanding.
Did you believe that, Moses? And you've been there. He's saying that he doesn't know if this has been happening for a while. You've been there.
Yeah, I can say since when I started running in 80s, we have been having these problems throughout. And the biggest problem is that a cartel that is in all federations. And the best thing that we should say now is to make sure that the constitution of all federations, including Athletics Kenya, which is the worst, is the election clause. Because this election clause was made in 1952-53, that we need to have delegates, and we need to have, you know, those Europeans, long time ago. They didn't want Africans to come and run sports.
sports.
And of now, things have changed. We have a new constitution for Kenya. We have also integrity issue.
You're talking about that because there's always been this argument, and you are in this federation, Kenya Table Tennis Federation, you deal with the rest. There's been this argument that whatever you do, the federations, I mean, the election the way it is set and the constitution the way it is right now, the cartels will still vote themselves back in, so it will not change anything.
That is why I'm saying the constitution should be changed to allow stakeholders, which is athletes and other people who would like to support sports, that we need to do an election like for presidential in this country. We start from county. When you are voting in the county, you vote also for your president in the national office, so that we stop this thing of having executive voting, because like Athletic Kenya, they have 14 votes, executive, and those 14 out of 58 or 57 members, how many do you need so that you win an election?
So you all vote in yourselves?
Yes.
And that is what has been happening?
First you say, I want to retain my seat.
Yes.
And that is the biggest problem. We need to dismantle, even in NOC and even in all the federations.
So disbanding is okay. What should follow it is now changing of the constitution?
Yes.
And how? How do they do that?
We need to push from the government and also from all sportsmen that we need to change this federation. And I will lead it. I will lead the athletes to change this federation.
Do you agree with that?
Yes.
You know, when you talk about cartels, cartels do not just exist in one place. For me, for example, if it is Kenya Table Tennis, I want to form my own cartel. I'll have to get a godfather maybe in the Ministry of Sport. I'll have to get a godfather also in the media. So that I can able now to be able to push my agenda to make myself to be comfortable for me to be able to move forward. And what makes for the cartels to be there, because many of these sports federations, majority of them are volunteers. Now the government has to come in a very serious way in terms of sports development. Like in other countries, offices are given to the federations. But if you do not give offices where the government also plays a part and maybe assigns people who can assist in whatever work that the federation need to be done, then that is where you now start creating a culture where instead of the athletes being served, the athletes end up now serving the officials.
Right. Who is supposed to bring about change in terms of constitution? Does it mean each federation has its own constitution that needs to be changed? And changed how?
You know, the constitution, for example, of athletics and the constitution of Kenya Table Tennis, those are completely different, because the constitutions of federations will be aligned with the international federations that you have. So what might work for athletics might not work for table tennis or any other sport.
So how do you go about that?
What we need to do is to make sure that we first dissolve Athletic Kenya. We put an interim committee so that they will start to work on the constitution.
Reviewing it.
Reviewing it. But if we give the same people, you know, there are people who sits there and they don't want, because they will pay for this constitution to be done. Athletic Kenya, they have reviewed their constitution twice, in 2013 and this year. But they have not really do the constitution that we like as athletes. So we need to make sure that we put somebody in Athletic Kenya that will see the needs of athletes. The needs of athletes is to make sure that all these problems that we are seeing, losing, getting no shoes,
and all allowances and everything, it comes to an end.
Sorry, maybe if I add there, when the Sports Act was passed, we got a new law for sports. We had different entities that were put up. We had the Sports Fund, we had the Registrar's Office, we had Sports Kenya. Those bodies need to be given the powers that they're supposed to be given. For example, for Rio, why we had a lot of fiasco and things went haywire is that you have a steering committee. The steering committee is headed by the minister. So if they did not have meetings...
The principal secretary of the minister.
The minister is in charge of the ministry, and then the principal secretary, because maybe of the issue of the minister being busy and all that, ends up now chairing the steering committee. So if the steering committee...
It also has membership from NOC.
It has membership from NOC. There was also the Athletics Kenya president sitting there. So if you are not able to control the steering committee, you are not able to give guidance for the games itself, you'll end up now having maybe the chef de mission taking all powers out of that steering committee.
But then again, this is the point, that they are guarded again because of the charter, that, you know, gives rise to NOC. And that is why I'm asking, in fact, what will be the repercussions? Tell us what will be the repercussions if IOC decides to crack the whip now, because government has interfered with NOC, or government is banning NOC.
One, I think what
IOC
will do first, they will engage the government and the stakeholders first. And if they are not satisfied, then they will crack the whip. When they say we are suspending Kenya, what that means is that people do not know that IOC is composed of international federations. So that's a decision of the international federations under the umbrella of IOC. What that means is that athletics will be banned. The athletes who we see and cheer and the ones who have been mistreated will not be able to compete.
That is not in the Olympics only, but anywhere, including the IAA of
including even table tennis, including all those sports.
Any sports currently going on anywhere.
Yes.
No Kenyan can compete.
And the lifting of the ban, it doesn't mean that IOC removes a statement today and tomorrow the ban is lifted. The ban now has to go back to the respective international federations for them to lift. So for example, maybe it is athletics. The ban was lifted, maybe it was put when they were having a Congress. they might be forced maybe to wait for the next Congress for the ban to be lifted.
So it may take a lot of time.
It may take a lot of time.
And it's still affecting innocent athletes.
Yes, that is why the decision that was taken needed to have been, the minister should have come and consulted us. And that is why we also have the entities that are there. Even for example, the Rio Games, we have the Sports Kenya. Their mandates that have been given there. Why wasn't that exhausted? Why wasn't it used? You have professional people who are there.
Okay.
So do you not trust them?
Should we risk that?
No,
You're saying it's a big risk. Should we risk that?
What I'm saying is...
It's already been done, by the way.
Yes.
I know the minister is not even consulting. He should have consulted before he announced this ban. But what I'm saying is that why should we put people or ministries every year that they don't understand sports? This is the biggest problem. If we have somebody who understands sports in the ministry and also in Athletic Kenya or in the NOC, then we don't have these problems.
But the thing is, if they are trying to disband NOC because everybody is really tired with NOC and everybody is saying, you know, NOC is hiding under the independence of IOC, what is to be done? Can Kenya risk this? And is there any other country that has done this before?
There is no other country that has done this. But usually what you do is to investigate the culprits of those people who has made mistakes. For example, if the chief de mission has done a mistake, the minister has done a mistake, they should investigate first before they announce anything, because this will ruin a generation of sportsmen
in Kenya.
In Kenya.
Okay, so if you say that, and these are matters that are in court now for those who are being, those who are arraigned from NOC. But if something happens and they are to leave NOC, do you believe if other elections are held, because you talked of cartels, if other elections are held, you believe we'll have the right people in office, or it will be the same thing and the same cartels and the same problems again?
I will say the first thing that will guide Kenyan sport is the constitution. Like the constitution, you know, KANU was using the delegate system, and we changed section 2A of Kenyan constitution to make sure that every Kenyan has a right of voting, right of expression. This is what we need also to be done in sports, that we need to remove that election clause so that we make that clause for every athlete or stakeholders to vote, and we will get good officials from doing so.
Right, and this election clause, and especially in NOC, is an election clause that can be amended here, or does it derive from the IOC Charter?
You know, all federations are governed by a constitution that is there. In that constitution, for example, for the NOC, there's a clause that gives us the mandate to be able to change. There's a mandate.
Okay.
Like even like now, we did not need to disband NOC. We needed maybe to suspend the officials and move forward. If it is an issue about, I know for NOC, it is an issue of the executive having a vote, that vote can be removed. If it is an issue of maybe going radical, we can have all federations sitting in NOC as an administrative board and employing professional staff to run the National Olympic Committee, and they report back to the board that is there.
Okay, so give me your final comments, plus what he's saying. What do you think? Do you believe, first of all, do you think the constitution should be changed? And how?
It depends. For National Olympic Committee, definitely
it should be
the
changed.
constitution has to be changed. In
terms of elections, like he's saying?
Once you change the constitution, because the areas that we are, as federations, we know, as stakeholders, we know what needs to be done. Because as you said, rightly said, the cartel will remove this group and new cartel will come in.
Right.
The minister set up a probe committee. I think that was a wrong way to go about it also, because a probe committee does not have that power, maybe as a task force. He should have petitioned the president maybe to set up a task force that has powers and that can affect. Like now, how does that probe committee carry out its work, and you have people who are in court? They are not able to do. If I was in court and then you come now and you try to probe me, I will go back to court and I'll say you're interfering
with what is going on.
You're pulling me now into a corner.
Okay.
What I should say is that, you know, if you want to do elections, for example, WAL, Athletic Kenya, or IF, you have what we call delegates, because there are many countries. But every country can do its own constitution to fit the needs of people who wants to use that constitution. So what I'm saying is that, like Kenya, we need a drastic change in our constitution.
Okay.
And that is why, to give us powers like athletes.
Yeah.
And we athletes from various, like police and everybody,
yes,
is saying now that we need to change this constitution so that they can be allowed. And I can tell you this, Mohammed, that a member of Athletic Kenya is some individual people. An athlete is not a member of Athletic Kenya. And I'm asking this, who this official is representing? Because if we are not members of Athletic Kenya, by virtue of being an athlete,
yeah,
who is these people leading? Okay. So this is what we are saying, that we need now to be the members of Athletic Kenya so that we can wear the shoe, because we know where the shoe pinches.
Okay.
Yeah?
With your experience.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Andrew Mudibo is the head of the Kenya Table Tennis Association, and Moses Tanui, two-time Boston Marathon champion, world champion 1991, Tokyo 10,000 meters, first man to run under 1.5 hours in 1993 half marathon in Milan, and also participated in the 1988 and 92 Olympics. We're all proud of you, that's all you have to say all this. But thank you both for making time for the big question tonight. Keep talking to us. The hashtag tonight is Fiasco in Rio. We'll be back after this break.